Eli had carried the same sack for 3 years. Not stones from any road, though it felt that way, but the weight never came from what was inside it. It came from what he refused to put down. Most of us carry something we cannot name. We call it responsibility. It is something older and heavier than that. By the time this walk ends, you will understand why the heaviest stones are the ones nobody else can see. This story is older than guilt itself. It is the reason you still feel it today. Eli lived on the edge of a wheat village, in a stone cottage with a door that never quite latched. His hands were calloused from work he no longer finished. Every night he sat by the window and did not sleep. The sack sat by his bed, always within reach, its burlap stained dark at the bottom. He had been a builder once. Now he only mended fences, small jobs, nothing that asked too much of his hands. Neighbors greeted him. He nodded back and kept walking. When his mother asked why he never smiled the way he used to, he only shrugged and looked at the ground. The sack went with him everywhere, to the well, to the market, even to church on Sunday, tucked under the pew where no one could see it but him. Nay morning, a stranger stopped at Eli's fence. Thomas Bell, foreman for the new mill contract, needed hands. But when he named the site, Eli's grip tightened on the fence post. It was the old mill, his father's mill, the one Eli had sold for coin 3 years ago, chasing a deal that collapsed within a season. Eli said no. Tomas pressed harder. Work was scarce, the pay was good, therefore Eli's mother spoke up before he could refuse twice. "We need the coin," she said quietly. He could not argue with an empty pantry, so he went. The mill's new owner, a sharp-tongued man named Hollis Fenn, recognized him instantly. "The boy who sold his father's wheel for a gambler's promise," Hollis said, loud enough for the other workers to hear. Laughter followed. Eli's jaw locked, but he said nothing. Therefore the sack at his feet seemed to grow heavier with every board he lifted. By midday his hands were raw and shaking, not from the labor, but from standing inside the walls his father built. Each nail he drove felt like an accusation. Hollis kept needling him, calling him the fool with the empty sack whenever he passed, and the other men began to laugh along. Eli's chest tightened. He dropped his hammer. But before he could walk away, an old traveler resting near the mill gate lifted his head and watched him, silent, unhurried, as if he had been waiting for this exact moment. Which was strange, because Eli had never seen the old man before in his life. Eli walked straight past the old traveler and out through the mill gate, but his legs gave out before he reached the road. He sat down hard against the stone wall, the sack falling beside him with a dull thud. His hands would not stop shaking. He pressed them flat against his knees, therefore they only shook harder. Sweat had soaked through his collar, though the morning was cold. He stared at the sack. He did not open it. He never opened it. Hollis Fenn's voice still echoed off the mill walls behind him, and somewhere past that, his father's voice, 3 years old now, asking why the wheel had gone quiet. Eli pressed the heels of his hands against his eyes until white spots bloomed in the dark. He had built nothing since that season. He had fixed nothing, finished nothing, kept nothing. The sack sat beside him like proof. But the old traveler had followed him out the gate, and he was no longer resting. The old traveler crouched beside him without a word. He did not ask what was wrong. He simply reached for the sack. Eli grabbed it back, but the old man's grip was steady, patient, unbothered. "Let me see what you're carrying," he said. Eli's arms went slack. He let go. The old man opened the sack and pulled out a single stone, dark and jagged, its edges catching the light. He turned it slowly in his palm. Therefore Eli saw what he had never noticed before. One side was rough and black, but the other side, the side that had pressed against his palm for 3 years, was worn smooth and pale. "You've been holding this so tight," the old man said. "You polished the gilt right out of it." He dropped the stone in the dirt between them. The boy who sold that mill made a choice with a boy's fear and a boy's hope. You are punishing a man who's already gone. That's not justice, Eli. That's just cruelty wearing a disguise. Eli looked down at the stone, then at his own hands, and for the first time in 3 years, he did not reach to pick it back up. Eli left the stone in the dirt. He did not bury it, did not throw it, just left it there, and picked up the sack, empty now except for the rest. He walked back through the mill gate. Hollis looked up, already smirking, ready with another jab. But before he could speak, Eli set his tools down and started working. Silent, steady, without a flinch. Hollis tried again. "Didn't think you'd come crawling back, boy." Eli did not answer. He did not need to. Therefore, Hollis's words landed on nothing and dropped to the floor between them, the way the stone had. By evening, Eli had repaired the section of wall his father built 30 years before. He ran his palm along the grain of the wood. Therefore, something in his chest loosened for the first time in 3 years. He did not tell his mother what happened. He did not explain the empty sack by his bed that night. But the next morning, for the first time in 3 years, he woke up and reached for his tools instead of the sack. Most of us are carrying a version of that sack. Not stones, but a decision, a mistake, a season we wish had gone differently. We keep it close because some part of us believes the weight is proof we care. But the hidden danger is quiet. It never announces itself as punishment. It disguises itself as responsibility, as humility, as simply being realistic about who we are. Meanwhile, it keeps us from building anything new. Somewhere, most of us are still judging a version of ourselves who no longer exists, using knowledge that person never had. The stone was never asking to be carried forever. It was only ever asking to be understood once and then set down. But understanding is only the first step. If there's a stone you've been carrying, name it in the comments below. One word is enough. Some of you have been carrying yours longer than Eli carried his. But putting the stone down is only half the weight most of us carry. The other half shows up even after we've forgiven ourselves. It's the quiet feeling that no matter what we build, it's still not enough. That's exactly what the next story uncovers in Why We Never Feel Like We Have Enough. Like this video, share it with someone still gripping their own sack, and subscribe for more stories like this one.